everybody, and welcome to PGS Moving Image, our review of the Barbie movie. I am your host, RM. Welcome to Positive Fandom, and welcome to the Burnettwork. It's such a pleasure to be here, and I am so pleased as Punch to have with us today Kamran, Pasha, writer, producer, creator of the Pasha method of writing. Kamran, how are you today?
I'm doing incredibly well. I'm so excited to be on right now to talk to you about this movie, which is causing a lot of stir, and I have some very strong opinions about it, which I'm not afraid to share. And I'm going to be delighted to engage this. And you're one of the people that I trust to have an actual conversation about this.
Absolutely, Kamran. And both you and I have seen this film. So I want to put that out there for the viewers so that they know we have actually seen the film. So we're not commenting about a film that we haven't seen, which I kind of caution people from doing. Of course, you can do whatever you like, but we like to see our films before we make a comment about them and just going from there. So everybody knows that we've actually seen this Barbie film. And I loved it. And Kamran, this film was remarkable because like the player, like the life of Brian, like Bamboozled or Idiocracy, this satiric film looks at life's contradictions and absurdities using exaggeration. And what a fun thing it is to see it. I saw this film as a constructive social criticism on the use of social justice, a criticism on the use of toxic male, a criticism on the use of modern femininity, a criticism on the use of misogyny and misanthropy. But it's so much even more than that, Kamran, because it's a beautiful looking film. These actors are fantastic performers. I wasn't expecting to see them dancing and doing routines and even singing. And honestly, I don't think we've ever seen anything like this. This one is for the history books for me, Kamran. But oftentimes when people see films like this, especially when it's meant as a satire, people take it very literally. And that's the opposite of how you're intended to interpret a satire. Kamran, give us some insight into this, because it wasn't necessarily advertised as a satire, but about 5 minutes into this, I realized what the intentions were and that this was going to be a very funny and enjoyable film.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. It's incredibly on Positive Fandom, which has earned the title. It is really a positive place for people to be able to talk. Thank you for having me on the Burnettwork. I think Robert Meyer Burnett is a very intelligent man. We've talked several times, and it's wonderful that you're working with him. And it's great that he gives a variety of perspectives on his channels and allows people to talk. So yeah, so here I am. I'm going to talk about this. I agree with every single thing that you said, and I want to go deeper into it because there is something happening that is a disconnect right now that we need to talk about. There is a narrative spreading, particularly amongst our friends on YouTube. There's a narrative spreading that this movie, Barbie, is a misandrist, extreme leftist propaganda, degrading to men, shameful to women narrative. At the same time, it is the #1 movie in the world. It has brought in almost $160 million this opening weekend, 300 million worldwide at least. It's already on the way to making an easy profit for Warner Brothers, easy. And it has become an event movie. I've seen this movie. I went to see Oppenheimer, which maybe we'll do another review at some point, a second time with a friend last night. And the theater I was in was, you could tell all the Barbie fans because the entire mall was filled with people wearing pink, men and women. And the men didn't necessarily look, like someone you would imagine be left. There were a lot of, macho Mexican Latino guys in Los Angeles wearing pink with their girlfriends and their wives and their daughters. And the whole mall was filled with them. You could tell. And I'm going to see another movie because I've already seen it. And you could tell who the Barbie people were. So there's a global event phenomenon happening. I'm watching people, and again, before I comment on the movie itself, the reaction when I saw it on a Thursday night, opening night preview, late night preview. It was packed. I did a double thing of Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer was not packed. I love that movie too. But it was maybe a third of the audience on opening night on Thursday night. And the Barbie late night was packed, and people were going wild, and they were cheering, and they were laughing and talking about it afterwards. I heard them in the halls talking about the ideas that were obvious to me. These average people were getting the satire. And then I posted my review, went to sleep at 3 a.m. in the morning, woke up the next morning, find out there was controversy. I was like, what? What movie did you all see? What movie did you see? And it is controversy that has continued through the weekend. As I've written, as you remember on my Patreon, I've written multiple articles on this, and the controversy won't stop. The sad part of it is a lot of the controversy is people that haven't seen it and won't see it based on what someone else is saying. And I'm like, what? So there is a disconnect happening. That's why we're doing this video, because it does not actually make sense. So I'm going to talk about the movie. I'm going to talk about where we are culturally in the general populace and where we are in some of the fandom commentary world, which I think have completely deviated from each other and will continue to deviate. And that's not going to be to the benefit of those who are out there talking about these things, because they're going to lose their audience. So yeah, so let's get into this movie, because I agree. And you gave all these wonderful examples. This is a Mel Brooks movie. Yes. I would compare it to Blazing Saddles.
Yes.
This is a complete commentary on the silliness of the human condition. And it's a commentary on the superficiality of our society, which perhaps you should, Barbie, which has always been critiqued for being an unrealistic representation of women. It's a superficial representation of women. And that's what it's critiqued by the left for decades, which they talk about in the movie. And as a result, Greta Gerwig, this utterly ingenious filmmaker, master filmmaker, flipped it and made it a commentary on the superficiality of the world today, which she skewers the right, she skewers the left, she skewers the silliness of our facades. She even skewers the narratives that limit women that are being presented by the left. She gives America Ferrera gives an impassioned speech that I now see conservative women talking about on Twitter, that are saying this is the first movie where you had a lead character say it's okay for a woman to just work at home and take care of children. That's more than enough of a job, and it's a job that doesn't get respect. And who has Hollywood promoted that message in 50 years? It hasn't promoted that message since Leave It to Beaver. And this is what Greta Gerwig is telling women it's okay. There's a complete disconnect, because they're not getting what she's saying on any level.
Yes. And I think that it's interesting, for a long time, Kamran, I'm not going to say I criticized, but I wasn't too happy in the notion of the advertisement of, let's say, Barbie with Oppenheimer for a number of reasons. Certainly, the studios can do whatever they want, however they want to market it. That's their choice, and people can have a laugh and kind of, look at the memes and everything. But I didn't care for it, and for a number of reasons. But I'm not paranoid where I'm like, I'm upset about it. No, I really wasn't upset. I just was like, that pairing doesn't look right. And what's really interesting though about all this is that in both films we see different sides of the story. Where in Oppenheimer we see Strauss's side and we see Oppenheimer's side, and in this film, in the Barbie film, we see so many different sides, and no one is safe, Kamran. No one is safe. Even myself, because I have to say, they even criticized something that I have a deep and honest belief of mine, and I'm going to tell you what it is, Kamran.
Please.
I secretly fantasize that I can get all of my male friends together and dress them up just like what we saw in Barbie, and take them 3 blocks to the beach, because I live right near the beach, and we can have a beach party. And that is my fantasy. But I know, Kamran, that that's completely unrealistic. However, I hold on to it very tight. I'm not ashamed to say it.
But why do you have that fantasy? Because as a child, dolls like Barbie allowed you to express it, because Barbie would have Ken she could dress up Ken. She doesn't just dress up Barbie, and Ken does what she wants. I would see little children sit there. Till to this day, little girls will sit there and they put Barbie. They make the Barbie there. She got the little cup, and they tell Ken to sit there, and that's the point. And people are like, oh, they are, it's disrespecting Ken. Well, Barbie is always disrespected Ken. That's the joke. And it's Ken. The movie's about Ken going, I don't want to be disrespected anymore.
Yes.
It's about
And
flipping those things and going to his
yeah.
extreme until they both come to a wisdom learning point where maybe disrespecting men is bad, maybe disrespecting women is bad. That's the point of this movie. It's making fun of the entire phenomenon of
Yes.
thinking that we can dress up each other.
And you know, it is also very interesting because part of the, you know, part of the let's say the fantasy is to also just have all the attention from those men. So yeah, I admit there, I said it. Yes,
Yeah,
I
and
would
that's natural. It's okay.
I want that. I want the way that Barbie had that attention, which I'm fine with. Is something that I want to have. And I still want that. I want that from men. And I'm not ashamed to say that I love men. And that's what I want from them. I value their attention and what they're thinking. And yes, if I could go into their brains and see what's going on, I could, but I know I can't, but it doesn't matter.
Well, but Ken does that for you in this movie.
Yes,
You go into the simplistic male Ken goes from the trodden down sidekick who can't. He's not. There's actually there's a profound message. She won't let him sit in the car in the front with her. What does that remind you of? Get to the back of the bus.
Yes.
Get to the back of the bus. I mean,
Yes.
it's not saying that's good. Ken should be, and that Ken is hurt by that Barbie won't let him sit in the front with her because she doesn't think of him as an equal. So he goes to this extreme where he becomes this crazy macho Ken, right? And then you get inside his head and understand that all of this he's doing is that he just wants to be liked by her. And the funniest thing is the song that symbolizes that is that famous song from Matchbox 20, you know, Push, right? where he's just like, I want to push you down where I will. I mean, that song is now becoming a massive hit again because of Barbie. And I love that song 15 years ago.
And you know something, Kamran, when I heard about this film, I wasn't expecting to go and see a screenplay that had this much detail about so many different things because they didn't have to do this. They could have done an ordinary story and it still would have been fun. You know, like we would have gone to see it. And I also want to thank Tennille 89, aka Dislikes Puns, for $2. Gee, you may not like the satire, Tennille 89, but can't lie. Be speckled. Kamran is intimidating. Well, you know something, Tino, thank you for being here. We appreciate you being here and we appreciate everybody here. Yes, he certainly does look very different. And I like the look. I like both looks, Kamran. Darth Plato for a $5 super chat says, stay at home, mom. That's an interesting take because it is not what most would consider. And you know something, Darth Plato, that's exactly, it's supposed to be a satire on every single position. No one is safe. They even talk about the Snyder cut in this.
Oh yeah, well, I know.
They even talk about Pride and Prejudice.
I mean, look, let's be honest here. And this is gonna upset my friends like Abu Nas and others. Like, man, I don't care about the Snyder cut. I'm tired of hearing about it. I was tired of hearing about when you guys started with it, right? And so that's an example of us getting stuck on.
And
things,
it was important enough to put in a film about pop culture. Think about what this director is saying. Think about what the screenplay writer is saying. That this was important enough to put in a film about satire about our modern world. You guys ought to be patting yourselves on the back saying, wow, I can't even believe somebody was even thinking about us. Guess what? You are important.
That's the thing. This is such a brilliantly crafted movie on every level. The script is brilliant. I mean, there's this weird narrative that this is the leftover script from Amy Schumer. No, it's not, because Amy Schumer does not represent.
Amy Schumer would not be able to write this, Kamran.
Yeah, and she can't write this. And you know, and also this movie is about. Well, okay, Paulie, you and I will talk about this. I don't know. That's fine.
Hi, Paulie.
I'm here. Hi, good to see you, Paulie. And that's what this movie is, and that's the genius of Greta Gerwig is she's triggered this conversation, and that's why I'm going to present my point of view because. Paulie, I completely disagree with you for 3 days now. I've heard it now, right? From everybody. Now it's my time to say why I'm right. Give me that chance. Give me that chance. We all heard it. If anyone wants to hear I completely disagree, there's 35 videos right now you can go to.
Kamran,
right?
If you and I had enough time, we could go look at this screenplay and go line by line and pick out everything. It's so packed. Pride and Prejudice has always been one of the major girl things about what we like in literature. They made fun of Jane Austen. You can sit at home and watch your 10th rendition of Pride and Prejudice. And I was like, touche, touche. I've just been read. How did they know I'm going home to watch that? They know us. They know it. It's meant to have a laugh at me. And you know what? When I finish this, I'm going to put on Pride and Prejudice, and it's okay. It's okay that I'm doing that. I'm not ashamed of that. I also want to mention that the film is very smoothly done when we hear the words like discontinued and ocracy words, all this, and it's mirrored with a fantastic cheerfulness at the beginning where they're like, hi, and I myself, you know, I'm cheerful. Okay. I'm a cheerful person.
A positive person. I know you well.
But not a lot of people like that cheerfulness. Sometimes it's that people feel very uncomfortable about it. And I like what they did here because, you know, it's not appropriate at all times. And it's okay to even make fun of that. The world is not a completely 100% chipper place and cheerful.
Well, they're making fun of it's the positivity movement, right? Of the new age. They're mocking that throughout, right?
They're making fun of
But and also, so then I'm now because I finally get a public thing because my point of view has been attacked quite a bit, at least by people that have not had me on, right? But so let's say this. So there are so many things I've just listed. You know, I listed the journey. I listed the journey of Ken, which some people in the chat are understanding. The journey of Ken is necessary to get Ken out of her shadow, then he goes to his extreme so that we can get back to the middle.
And thank you for acknowledging that men have feelings. Thank you for acknowledging that they're people.
And it doesn't make
thank you for acknowledging we need men. Like it felt very empty not to have them. And the audacity she had when she told that man, well, every night's a girl night. So he needs intimacy. Don't do this nonsense. He needs intimacy.
And so the end result is when he's not getting intimacy, he goes to another extreme to try to compel intimacy, which doesn't work either, which is where we've gotten to with a lot of the manosphere versus, the dating stuff, whatever. What is the quote unquote manosphere about? It is about a reaction to men feeling that women don't respect them. I'm going to say this.
And it's a play on the I don't need a man. Of course we need you.
Right. But you're talking from the center. So we had a couple of generations where I'm not talking as a man, I'm talking as a conservative Muslim man, right? We had a couple of generations where men were told that that what women wanted was essentially Ken at the beginning of the movie, which is someone to hold their purse, someone to kiss their butt, someone to not challenge them, someone to always be their cheerleader, right? And so we did that, and guess what? Women rejected us. The concept of the incel comes from these people that bought into a story that they were told about what women wanted by the mainstream culture. And then they became angry when they discovered women didn't respect it, even though they were told that's what make women desire you. And then the manosphere begins as a reaction.
Because you can do it alone doesn't mean we should be doing it alone. It doesn't have to be that hard. And not all of us want to do it alone. Sorry, but that's not the majority of people out there. Guess what? People are still together. They're getting married. They're living together. They're dating. So that whole fallacy, needs to be completely poo-pooed. And Tennille 89 says, hey, but it wasn't a complaint. Hey, we know that. And you know what? We're just glad you're here. Hey, Paulie. Paulie, we respect you. We're just so glad to see you, Paulie.
Well, that was your house last week. I'm teasing you. You know that.
You're well. Good to see you.
Paulie, you're an intelligent guy. You have well thought out ideas. You are not bound by any ideology. I think some people in the fandom will be surprised.
And he's such a gentleman.
You're an absolute gentleman. You're an absolute gentleman. I'm just sharing my view, and I'm sharing from the heart, as you always do. What's great about Paulie's channel is he always speaks from the heart. Latino Slant, he never makes up stuff that he thinks the audience wants, that he thinks is going to give him the algorithm and the super chats. So if Paulie doesn't like this movie, great. Paulie's being honest about it, right? And now I'm being honest about it, that I love this movie. So I want to go talk more. So I want to continue on this thing.
Absolutely.
So we've got the reaction. The Ken's journey is the male journey of the spiritual journey of awakening of masculinity, which is first you start off in the last two generations of men being Ken, right? Which is making themselves inferior in the hopes that they will be loved by the princess, right? That is a new phenomenon. It's not how America with the cowboy image of John Wayne was, but that's what we've become in the last 20 to 40 years. And we have embittered generations of men who are now, marriage rates are falling because men are like, I don't want to be involved in this, right? But they're broken. I go to a lot of these red pill sites and manosphere sites and they're broken. Men are broken. And the reaction is either the what is called, MGTOW, men going their own way. I'm out. I got nothing to do with women. I don't know what they want, and I don't care. I'm not getting anything out of it. So they're gone. And then the others, you have the pickup artists. You got the pickup artists. Well, I was lied to that the women want a subservient guy, so I'm going to be the super manipulative macho dude, which is what Ken becomes. And guess what? It kind of works because there are people that fall for that dynamic. It's in the male-female dynamic of masculine and feminine. And so suddenly they're like, dude, I'm getting women now. I'm doing great, but they're still not fulfilled. It's still not a healthy relationship, which is the next stage of the Barbie journey, is that you get the Barbies all playing, the energy of Barbie land is flipped. It becomes Ken land, and it's still not healthy. And then the conclusion of the movie is, can we both just be real? Can we just be real? And you don't need me, Ken, to define you. I don't need you to define me. Can we come together as equals? This is the journey of divine masculine and divine feminine. It is not the journey of subservience.
Exactly. And Kamran, and I think one other thing that I want to point out is that it also mocks the notion of thinking we know what the opposite sex is thinking. And, I think it's critical, if anything, after having seen this film, is that there needs to be communication. That's a realistic communication between both sexes. And we see that there's great suffering and a lot of wasted time when that isn't the case. I don't believe that Barbie wouldn't have chose Ken. That's just me. I think that after this film wraps, she goes and gets him, but
it helps him become human. Guess what? That'll be the sequel. They're going to have a sequel after this. It's the #1 movie in the world. They're going to have a sequel after this.
But how about
they're going to have a sequel after this? The next journey is, how do you now get Ken to become human? And what are the hijinks that when that goes terribly wrong, right?
And the Americas, I think that's her name, is lovely in this. First of all, everybody looks so darn good in this film. Even the misfits look good.
This is perfect casting, right? You all better be happy that Amy Schumer wasn't cast in this. She was always.
That would have been such a mistake, and I think that it needs to be Margot Robbie.
The time we were in, which is the movie critiquing, that everyone had to say we're going to deconstruct. This is the thing is, so you're not going to deconstruct Barbie. They bring a woman that looks like Barbie, and what ends up happening is Barbie deconstructs us. that is Gerwig's genius, right? That is her genius, is that she deconstructs it. But I want to add more examples because people in the chat, they're not believing it, they're not buying it. Fine, don't buy it. I would suggest you watch it with your mind. I'll give you. So there's a moment where Barbie finally meets the teenage girl who's America Ferrer's daughter.
Yes,
who is one of the central characters, and we see her in flashbacks playing with Barbie. But then as she becomes a teenager, and this is not made for little children, it's PG-13. It is made
for adults. It's not.
You're making some comments that are a little inappropriate for 7-year-olds. This is not made for 7-year-olds. It is made for 13-year-olds who will understand it. I promise you they'll understand it, right? And maybe you can have a conversation with what they understand about it. But the thing is, so you have the teenage girl, you see her becoming the jaded teenager who then puts Barbie away, doesn't want to play with it, doesn't want her stupid mom who wants to play with it, wants to get away. And when Barbie finally meets her, it is a commentary, a critique of the young, angry teenager who spouts nonsense we don't understand.
That's the dark clothing. She's wearing in the
cultural Marxist theory about Barbie being the woke white woman and
sitting at the table separate from the other kids.
Stupid.
Yes.
It's stupid. And the teenager looks stupid saying it, and Barbie doesn't understand it. Greta Gerwig is saying this kind of stuff. Young kids spouting nonsense that they have no experience of. There's a comment in here where someone, welcome member of the chat, is saying, I think the writer of Barbie has no understanding of human nature. I don't think they understand human nature better than its critics, because here she is mocking a teenager's rebellion to take stupid ideas that they don't even understand. And her journey, the teenager's journey, is to actually become mature and to love and appreciate her mom and to love and appreciate being a young woman, and that it's okay. You don't have to be spouting, cultural Marxist stuff all the time about, the woke colonizers. It's not real. Be real.
It is, and you make a good point about this. And as Kamran and I are both saying, this is a satire. The film is complete satire, which means the way that I've always interpreted satire is that you don't take everything literally, guys. This is not literally.
Everyone is living on the surface of this movie. They're thinking Barbie putting Ken in the back of the street is promoting Ken. No, the whole point is Ken says he doesn't want to be treated this way.
That's right. There's irony, there's exaggeration. Everything is meant to be absurd. This is as absurd as Baron von Munchausen. That's how
It's as
absurd
absurd
this
as
film
Austin
is.
Powers. But here's the thing.
Yes,
It's like people
yes.
saying Austin Powers is transphobic because of the famous, that's not a man, that's not a woman, baby. I mean, that's that joke. You pat people today saying that's transphobic. You can't watch it. I mean, because it's whatever.
Tennille goes on with another $5 super chat. Thank you, Tennille. Says, that's an interesting idea. How different would the tone come across if it was written form like Pride and Prejudice and they satire that? They actually show a clip with Jennifer Eel and Colin Firth, one of the most popular versions of Pride and Prejudice that, of course, I have. I own this thing and I watch it all the time because a man would never be in want of a wife. Yeah, I totally buy into all that. Rather than a film, vastly, I suspect, to be honest with you, no one was safe in this incredibly comprehensive and inclusive satire. Cameron, this must have taken a lot of energy, a lot of thought.
This is every scene is
satire,
look,
a musical satire.
But again, I'm going to keep giving examples because people they're blind to this. It's happening right in front of them, in my opinion. Okay, so here. When Ken becomes Macho Ken, when he becomes Ken-nuff, right? That's his, I'm Ken-nuff, I'm good enough, right? I'm Ken-nuff, right? When he becomes Macho Ken with again, it's an exaggeration of the joke, which is he's the Stetson man with the hat and the horse and whatever. I mean, he's the Marlboro man. He becomes the Marlboro man, right? And it's ridiculous. But guess what? What happens? His toys as Macho Marlboro man Ken sell out more than Barbie. That's what happens in the movie, to the point that the CEO is like, wait a minute, what's happening here? Why are people buying Macho Ken more than Barbie? Because Greta Gerwig is saying little boys don't have any role models in toys anymore because of the deconstruction of the last 10 years.
Yes, it's exactly what everybody's been saying.
You will give them a strong male, even if it's an exaggerated macho thing. People will buy it. They'll buy it more than Barbie. It's there in the movie.
They're saying there are no male heroes in films. There's no male hero in toys. And this movie addresses that to a T. One of my favorite things they address, Cameron, absolutely favorite, is this is the best day ever. I'm just living my best life, which is total bullshit. The film is a satire on all of that stuff. They are not having their best life. They are not having their best day.
They're not happy.
They're not.
It's a comment. Where does she go when she enters the real world? She enters my home. In fact, I saw the scenes. It's opposite me. She's in my park. She's in Santa Monica. She's walking around rollerblading with Ken in my park in Santa Monica. I know the locations. I walk by them. I wish I'd been there when she was filming. I didn't know. Right? I wasn't there to see Margot Robbie. Yeah, but that thing. And she comes. Where does she come from? Her fake superficial Barbie land to the center of superficiality, Hollywood, Los Angeles, Santa Monica, where everyone needs to look good to go to the beach, right? And she's so innocent and clueless in this world that I live in, which is not clueless. It is very crass. It is very objectification for men and women. You got to look good in LA. You got to have your six-pack abs as a man.
Yes,
and it's making fun of that. And the thing is, Ken fits in immediately because he's got the six-pack abs, right?
Oh,
he's the ideal that we have projected onto men in this society.
He was perfect. All the men in this film are, wow. Cameron,
they want to be like Ken.
There's even a scene where, and of course, the Ken is essentially a man. So this is how, when I see these, I'm thinking about men. So I just want to be very clear that I love men, and as far as I'm concerned, there can't ever be enough of them in a film. I felt, that this was one of the few films that actually, as I said to you, Cameron, address the fact that men have feelings and emotions and that we need them. And there's one part where somebody says something about, I'm just dying to dance. And that was even almost a criticism, I think, of ravers whose focus is, I don't give a shit what happens. We're going to go party for the next 24, 48, 36 hours. And the rest of the world can go F itself. And I thought to myself, wow, Barbie is saying she just wants to go dance and not think about anything. I just want to dance and not think about anything. I don't want to be involved. And I think it was very interesting to even address that notion because
Okay. But actually, before we go there, let's have inside Hypnotic and Rapture. I'm sure you didn't watch this movie. Please say in the comments if you did. I'm sure you didn't. Insulting Moms. I just said that America Ferrera gives a speech that says being a mom at home is good. It's good. Conservative women are saying no one has said that in years. I just said it. So secondly, and I've just said it's not insulting males. It is insulting Barbie mistreats Ken. Ken rebels. They have a conflict. And then they grow and they become individuals who are no longer fighting with each other. They're individuals. How does that insult men? She is insulting men at the beginning because Ken has always been, the point of the movie is Ken has always been insulted by Barbie. It's always been Barbie and Ken.
Yes.
Right? Not Ken individually. He has no existence outside of that, and he resents it, as any man in the modern quote-unquote feminist world resents it. That's what all you guys have been grumbling about on YouTube for 3 years. That, oh, it's all girl power. What? So they're saying the girl power is unhealthy. The male, unbalanced power is unhealthy. Let's be human. Let's be real. Let's play the roles that we want. Does the role require Ken to be subservient? No. Most women want strong, confident leader men. They like that. They're comfortable with that. The fawning male who kisses their butt is not what most women sexually attracted to or desire. The movie makes that point. How is it insulting men? I am convinced you didn't see this movie. If you did, please comment and tell me why you think it insults men and why what I'm saying is wrong. Did you hear that speech? How is that speech not pro-mom? Did you see how Ken transcends her disrespect to find his own authenticity? How is that anti-male? If you can comment, I would love to see it. If you're not going to comment, I have to assume you're just regurgitating what 35 people are saying right now. None of them are saying this. None of them are getting this movie.
I also think what's really interesting, and as I mentioned to all of you earlier, when Kamran, you and I first started talking about this, is my fantasy, of course, of all you guys dressing the way I want to see you dress and hanging out with me. We're having all tea parties and such. And then as the film progresses, when we see, this is a jeans and sneakers, t-shirt kind of world we live in. So no one really dresses like Barbie. It's rare. Like there's a certain percentage, but the majority of us are in jeans and t-shirts. It's just a fact. And it's okay. We don't, there's no dress code. But for Barbie, there always seems to be one where she's kind of dressed up, and the costumes in this, I've got to get like all these dresses and stuff. But my point is that even I felt hurt when I saw Ken come back and he was just wearing like his normal clothes. And I was like, no. And I realized that they got me. She's a genius. She knew exactly why I'm so drawn to that fantasy, which I'm still holding on to. I'm not going to ever let it go.
That's part of the male-female dynamic, which is why we go back to the doll, which is why this doll is so primordial. There's a Muslim hijabi Barbie. It's a global phenomenon. They don't even call it the doll inside the company. I was reading an article that you're not allowed to call it the doll, because it's essentially the founder of the company, of Mattel. Mattel was co-founded by a woman, and we meet this woman, played brilliantly by Rhea Perlman. Yes. We discover she wasn't a simple woman either. She went to jail. The IRS came after her, right? She had a double mastectomy. And all this stuff, all these things happened to her. She wasn't a clean character. That's because they're all human, right? And so, I want to respond. There's people in the chat. I'm responding in the chat, but I want to say it here. People are saying Barbie should not have been political. We're living in a world where everything is political. If Barbie had just been pretty girls jumping up and down,
she's always been political, because she in 1972 or 3 she was dressed as a doctor. That was very.
She was an astronaut. She was an astronaut before we had female astronauts, right?
Yes.
It's like saying Nichelle Nichols was political for being in Star Trek. The first Black woman in space. Said, she was inspired by Nichelle Nichols as Uhura as a child. And when she went up on the space shuttle, she was the communications officer on the shuttle. And despite NASA protocols, which have very specific communication protocols, every time she opened up a radio to NASA, she said hailing frequencies open to honor Nichelle Nichols. They let her do it, because is that political? Well, Star Trek is political, right? Barbie is in that sense. And of course it's political. How are you going to not have Barbie? Remember the salient point was, if you love Barbie, come see this movie. If you hate Barbie, come see this movie, because points of view are shown there. Little girls that love Barbie, or older women that remember what Barbie inspired them. Yes. And then you got this teenage girl who hates Barbie because she's the woke white woman savior colonist who's oppressing people and giving women an unrealistic body image. Because all of that is said in the movie.
Yes, and you know what that said to me too? There's another element on that, Kamran. And it's all the people who are unaware that Barbie over the past, 20 or 30 years has represented everybody. There has not been a version of Barbie that has not been made. We have seen everything. So that idea that she only comes in one look is a fantasy. I have about 27 different types of Barbies and maybe 10 of one kind of Barbie, but certainly I have such a huge collection and variety. And Kamran, they started to do it in the 90s, right? It was like the late 90s. Yeah. We're talking like almost 30 years of the varieties, even more than what we had been seeing. Certainly Barbie represents a lot, but another part, Kamran, there's just so much of this, where they see the construction workers and even they're not immune, where they're like, hey, baby, I want to hit that. And it was the satire, or at least the parody of my mommy has a vagina and my daddy has a
well, and people are offended that there's a reference to body parts. That's it. People are like, there's sex. There's no sex in this movie. There's no sex. There is a reference to the universal joke that Barbie and Ken do not have anatomical parts. And that joke is paid off at the end with another joke about a gynecologist, right? You don't go to the gynecologist. There's a joke about it, which is about Barbie and not being anatomical, and would she be anatomical if she becomes human, right? That's the joke. It is an archetypal thing about Barbie and Ken that they do not have organs. So you can't reference it in a PG-13 movie. You can't reference that. Come on. I mean, did they use a bad word for it, or did they use the anatomical word for it? They used the scientific word for it. And because Barbie doesn't know bad words. She just knows anatomy.
Well, I don't have a vagina and he doesn't have a penis. And the construction workers, we don't care, honey. We don't care, honey. And of course,
I remember. This will probably embarrass my nephews and niece. But I remember when my niece and nephew, my older sister had a son, and he was like, and my little sister had a baby daughter, and he was like, the son was like maybe 3 or 4 years old, and then the baby daughter just been born, and my younger sister was changing her, and I remember being there, and my little nephew who's 3 years old looks and goes, why doesn't she have that? Right? Because he doesn't understand. He sees this thing on his body, and he does never seen a little baby, and he's 3 years old. Why doesn't she have that? Right? And we all laugh, but this is natural. And guess what? Barbie preserves the innocence. Little girls always take off Barbie's clothes. And I was the annoying brother that would steal my sister's Barbie and take off her clothes and hide the clothes, right? And guess what? There's nothing shameful. No shame. Little girl takes her clothes. There's no anatomical parts. It's on purpose, right? For something that does look like it should be anatomical. And it's just, I'm going to keep pushing this because I am sad. Now I want to get to another thing because I only have maybe about 20 more minutes. Talk about this for hours, right? And those, please come to my Patreon. We'll throw a link in there. There's a lively discussion on it, discussion on Barbie, because I've written several articles and people were shocked by this perspective because they haven't heard this, right, from anyone, frankly, until you and I did this video. All right. So now I want to talk about what that means. There is a major disconnect. There is objectively a disconnect between YouTube and fan analysis of this movie and the public's reaction to it. That is happening, and I warned that this would happen. Like, we have good YouTubers like Paulie who have a different opinion that's coming from an authentic place. I'll be happy to go to Paulie's house with his lovely girl Romy and talk about it one-on-one as friends, right? He's coming from an authentic place. I would suggest a lot of people in the fandom have now gotten used to a money-making machine where it's just everything's woke, everything's everything's bad, everything is all part of the Hollywood propaganda to reign. It's a mantra, it's a speech, and you do it, and you get clicks, and you get super chats. And I've warned, if you're not being authentic in the opinion, if it's just a speech and a mantra, a day will come when your speech and mantra no longer fits reality, right? And the moment has happened now. Barbie is a massive hit. People are like, well, it's going to bomb next week. It will likely go down. It may, but I still think it's a good chance it will remain number one. I don't think the Haunted Mansion has any buzz around it. I'm not impressed by the trailer personally, but I don't think it has the same level of buzz. It's an event movie, and I think the event probably can last a couple of weekends, and after that, people will get tired of dressing pink and going, and then that'll be over, right? But I think it's already on the path to being a profitable movie, way profitable, right? It's already done way more than they expected at 155 million, probably going to be 160 close when they get the final numbers in a few days, right? Which is a lot more than they expected. And people are loving it because I've described this actual event phenomenon. I'm seeing in Los Angeles because I go to the theaters, it's primarily Mexican families who are bringing their kids, right? They're teenagers, and they're there, and the Mexican dude has no problem wearing the pink hat, right? And he's laughing because he's making his girls happy, he's making his daughters happy, and he don't come across to me as a subservient dude. I see the dynamics in those Mexican families, right? God bless them, Latinos, right? And so, like our friend Latino Slant is in there, right? And so I'm seeing it with my own eyes. I saw it last night. right? With these the people all dressed. So it's an event. So what does this mean? So what this means is something I'm warning about, and this will make people dislike me. I don't care. I've had people unsubscribe from my Patreon this weekend because they haven't seen Barbie themselves, but people they trusted said it's woke garbage. And if I'm saying it, I must be a shill of some kind. I'm like, God bless you, go, because I'm never shill. I speak my truth. Ms. Marvel was brilliant. You all didn't go see Ms. Marvel because people told you it was woke. It wasn't woke. It was a family-friendly, religious, conservative show that you all claimed you wanted. You didn't see it. You've been claiming you wanted a critique of the woke, of making fun of extreme narratives on the left. You got it in Barbie, but you're not going to know because you've listened to these people. You're not going to go, right? And as a result, what's going to happen? You're just going to be left out of the fun experience. You're not going to know. You're going to repeat mantras. I keep seeing on my Patreon, I'm seeing in the cameras, people just repeating mantras that I can tell didn't see the movie. They can't debate it. They can't give a scene. They can't give a scene. They will repeat a scene that they heard about. Oh, they used a bad word, right? Did you see the context in which they mentioned a vagina? Did you see the context? I burst out laughing. I'm a conservative Muslim guy. In our culture, we don't date. We don't even date. We have arranged marriages for the most part, right? So I'm a conservative Muslim guy, and I burst out laughing because I got the joke. I understood. Right? So this disconnect is going to get worse because now in the next few days, you're going to have more and more of these YouTube videos coming out because because as a friend of mine sent me a DM saying a lot of these people who were just doing mantras to make money always thought they had the soccer moms on their side. They thought they were speaking for the soccer moms. We're going to keep giving them super chats, right? Now they lost the soccer moms. Because the truth is, women are taking their teenage girls to see this. Women are loving this movie. Conservative women. I posted Ashley St. Clair. She writes for Babylon Bee, has 750,000 followers. She posted Barbie is the first movie that said it's okay for a woman to just be a homemaker with a child, right?
Yes.
First movie. He posted that, and then I went to the thread.
Or to not care about stuff.
Yeah, and the thread on Twitter, her thread is filled with conservative women saying, you know, I'm pro-Trump, I'm pro this, I'm pro whatever, and I love this movie, blah, blah. And then the men going, and then the conservative men going, I don't know what to believe anymore. I saw the thread. People like, because all these guys told me that's not what it is, but you're telling me that this is pro-our message, right?
It is. It's pro everyone's, honestly.
It's pro-universal messages. Everyone. The liberals think they found their message. The conservatives, if they bother to watch it, will see they found their message, right? And that's what these conservative people are saying. Like Jack Posobiec, right, who's a big conservative fellow on Twitter. When I was on Twitter, I had a lot of DMs with him. He's a big movie buff, right? We talked about movies on DM before I left Twitter. And Jack put out the thing where basically he took a fun scene of the Ken Rebellion where they're all on like unicorns and horses fighting the Barbies. It's very funny. He says, I'm going to tell my kids this was January 6th, right? He's incorporating Barbie to say his message is January 6th wasn't as the way it's portrayed is just a bunch of people went in there, didn't know what they were doing. They're kind of clueless. They were harmless. And so I'm going to show this image from Barbie that's harmless and clueless of a conflict that's so silly and funny. Mm-hmm. So now smart conservatives, the one reading the room, are using Barbie imagery, co-opting it because it's been offered to them that they can take it just like anyone can take it. So this is what's going to happen to the narrative that's disingenuous, not the Paulies of the world who have a different opinion, but the disingenuous narratives, which I would suggest are a substantial portion of YouTube. So I'm not on YouTube a lot anymore, right? Because I've lost faith in people. Frankly, they claim to lose faith in me, whatever. I at least am honest and willing to take people unsubscribing and going away when I say things they don't want to hear. They're not willing to do that. In the process, though, they didn't realize they're going to do that now because they're saying things that people are saying, my wife liked it. My daughter, one of my patrons said, my daughter is an activist in the conservative activist for the Republicans. She's in the Republican Party as an activist. She's a young woman in her 20s for young Republican women. She loved it. So I don't know what to think. Okay, maybe you shouldn't have to know what to think. Go watch it, right? But this disconnect is going to be the death knell of frauds. It's going to be the death knell of people that are not honest about their opinions, that are coming from an ideological viewpoint. And it's also the death knell of stupid people that are unable to see nuance. You know, people who watch, Austin Powers, the right-wing version of people who watch Austin Powers go, joke was transphobic. This is a transphobic movie. The people that watch Blazing Saddles and think it's a racist movie because you got the black guy going, where the white women at, right? It's going to reveal all of you for what you are because, you're either lying, you don't care, or you're not able to see what's happening in a movie that it just shows you're not that smart. So why are you commenting on this? Why are you commenting when you can't see any nuance and can't understand satire and think satire doesn't belong, right? You should be happy that people burst out laughing at all the points that you wanted them to say about men and women. That people laughed and clapped at that means your message worked, right? It worked. But if you're not honest, you're going to miss this wave, and the pendulum is going to leave you behind, and those super chats are going to start going down, and the clicks are going to start going down because you're not being honest. I'm being honest. I've lost, every time I've been honest in a review, I've lost subscribers. I get 3 times that level over the next 2 months, right? Because more people prefer the honesty than the ones that don't.
And thank you, Kamran, for saying that. And Kamran, you know, I feel I pretty much agree with everything you've had to say. I do want to just do these super chats. Peter Vanitner for a $2. I think it's probably like a sticker. Peter, thank you so much. I so appreciate you supporting the Burnettwork and Positive Fandom. Also, Tom Jr. Jackson, who's the moderator here, Kamran. Thank you so much, Tom. We are all good people saying, just showing my support. This is a great stream. And Kamran, it is good to see you again. Yes.
Oh, it's good. So is there, I mean, do you want to address any more comments here? Because I've got about 15
minutes.
I
do. I just want to do these. I'm just going to read the
Let's go through the super chat and let's maybe wind it all down.
Yeah.
People go, I would so much prefer that people go and say, I didn't like the movie, like our friend Paulie, because I can respect it. I can debate with him. I was like, Paulie, what do you think about that scene? And Paulie be like, that's not how I interpreted it. At least he saw the scene. He saw the scene, right? So we can talk about it.
Right.
So you do that after this video and then tell me I'm wrong. And let's talk about the scenes, why you think that was against what I'm saying. And
once again, you have to see the movie and then you can form an opinion about it. As far as I'm concerned, Just Nova for 1138 for $4.99 super chat. It's very generous today in your super chats. Just Nova says, what makes Barbie not good? It's another enchanted, bewitched Lego when it could have just been fun. Well, yeah, you know something? That's
we had those. We've had that movie. We had a Barbie movie that was animated, was fun. You know,
and Just Nova, excuse me, I'm sorry, Kamran. Just Nova says 1138 says Barbie never represented politics. I'm going to say she did because she represented every different political position under the sun that people were against. They didn't want to see a female Barbie as a doctor. They didn't want to see a pregnant female Barbie.
But let's address her point here. Forgive me, Just Nova. I don't think you saw this movie. If you did, please put it in the post because I don't think you have. Because you're saying she always represents everyone in acceptance. I've just made this point for 45 minutes that's the point of this movie. Politics divides by definition. She is critiquing the left and the right. It's okay to be critiqued on the left and on the right. I've had people on my Patreon say, "Man, I'm a conservative guy, but had it not been for Hollywood critiquing the Patriot Act after September 11th, I wouldn't have thought twice about it." And now guess what? The liberals are the ones that are saying, we don't need freedom of speech, right? So the pendulum swings. But that's what it is. You need to be able to critique. You need to be able to listen to a critique. And it's a critique of everyone. Barbie should have been satire because what else can you do in this environment where men and female dynamics, where we have this poisoned conversation of feminism versus macho pickup artists? That is the conversation today. How do you address it? There's no way for Barbie to not address it when Ken is her subservient. By nature, he's her subservient. Little girls play with him as an addendum to Barbie. You have to address the power dynamic where Ken is always been inferior. How can you pretend that that's not true? And this movie brilliantly says he doesn't want to be inferior anymore. Isn't that a message we should be telling men? That you shouldn't think of yourselves as inferior? And okay, guess what? Now you're being a domineering jerk. That doesn't work. How about finding a center?
And Just Nova 1138 again, thank you for your generosity today. And we hear you and we're reading your super chat. We're hearing what you have to say, certainly, just so you know. Barbie, he goes on to say, should not have been. And I understand you feel that way. I personally feel it was the perfect, unexpected satire. A satire that turned into a musical satire, Kamran, turned into a visual satire. I wasn't expecting this many layers, Kamran. Even when we see them traveling like in a boat and we're looking at it from the side, of course, it's a satire of all those commercials we saw with Barbie and she can go anywhere. And,
but that's that brings America Ferrera to her speech. Barbie is putting too much on. What if I don't want to be an astronaut? What if I don't want to be the CEO of the company? What if I just want to be with my daughter? What if I just want to go home?
She was
perfect because she's the one that brings Barbie back to life because the little girl isn't playing with her anymore. It's her that brings her back to life, and she's projecting her pain onto Barbie, her struggles as a modern woman.
And you know something?
I don't want this anymore. I just want to be with my child.
Kamran, I do want to mention. Yeah, and I'm sorry, Cameron, I do want to mention that there are a lot of people who did just want a plain Barbie movie too, and I get that, and we will get that. I don't think it's over. I don't think we're not ever going to.
I think there's too much money in this franchise.
Yeah, there's going to be.
We're going to get funny movies as long as Greta Gerwig is doing them. I fear for when someone else takes them, right? Because she may become too big to be doing Barbie movies.
Yeah,
but hopefully she'll do a sequel in which we get the final redemption of Ken. Because people in the comments saying, well, people clearly did see the movie, say, well, Ken doesn't go all the way to liberation. Barbie points him in the direction of finding your authenticity, but we don't see it because it's not a movie about Ken. It's not a movie about Ken. So now let's see what happens with Ken. Barbie's journey is to come to becoming human. Let's see let's see about how she can help Ken get there. That's the movie I'd write. But you know what? Greta Gerwig has an even smarter version of that movie than me, right? In her head.
And Just Nova 1138, thank you for providing an alternate view, and we respect you. And thank you for the generosity, Just Nova.
Yes,
thank
absolutely.
you.
You're very generous.
And Science Lady for a £5 super chat. Hi, Science Lady. Says, great conversation. I left Twitter. It's horrible. Satire is a very old. It's even, yes, it was almost Shakespearean, Cameron. It was almost the layers of what they did in this screenplay. It is
Shakespearean. It's guess what? Guess what? Can you imagine Shakespeare today with these young kids like the one shown in this movie trying to understand Taming of a Shrew?
Yeah, they can't understand
Taming of a Shrew. I mean, that objectively looks like a man abusing a woman in a subservience.
And comedies exist for Shakespeare. Then I think that the modern audience should expect that those things also exist in modern times. So it is possible as a satire, even though people are not interpreting that. For me, it's clearly a satire. I can't.
It's clearly that. It's because you can tell because people are laughing. The audience is getting it. The audience is not necessarily sitting there intellectually analyzing it. They're just normies. They're laughing and they are crying. There are some beautiful moments that are emotional where I teared up and I kind of went like my little macho Ken came in. I was like, I don't know if I've been tearing up in a Barbie movie. And then I looked at the guy next to me who's an older dude who's sitting there, right? Maybe brought his daughter or something. He's older. I see him doing this. So it's working. It's working on an emotional level.
And OC Giggin for $4.99. He says on a blob stream, I said I didn't hate indie and I got called. No, we don't call anybody names here. We just listen to what you have to say. We respect
and
you guys.
We can disagree with them, and we encourage you to respond to our disagreements. You know, even if they're on screen, put them in the chats.
And he says on Cameron's Patreon, he has never done that, much less on his stream. We will never do that here.
No. If you love something I hate,
much.
God bless you. If you love something I hate, God bless you.
Oh my gosh, Just Nova again for the tune. Just Nova, thank you so
very
much.
Generous.
And Just Nova, you are the best. Thank you for being here today. Dan V900 for $9.99 super chat. Thank you, Dan V says going in with a negative bias is useless. And people have self-fulfilling prophecies.
Yes.
Those people's opinions are useless. Don't trust them. I liked Barbie. Didn't love it. See, this is you're not going to love everything.
Yeah, that's fair. I had one woman on my Patreon, Felicity. I won't give her last name, Felicity, and she's a very intelligent commentator on her Patreon. She has very high standards, and I joke with her that remember those old commercials, life commercials, where they have to give the cereal to Mikey because Mikey doesn't like everything. Hey, Mikey, he likes it, right? He actually likes Life cereal. It's the one thing he'll eat, right? So she's like that. She doesn't like anything, but when she likes something, it's really remarkable, right? So I tease her that you're, hey, Mikey, and she came back with a middle of the road review. She came back and, she, I think, would identify probably a little more conservative than most people, right? And she came out, and I believe she's African-American, but she came in and she said, that she certainly didn't say it was woke. She said it's not woke. I thought this and this worked, and I thought this and this didn't work. That's an honest review, right? That's an honest review, but somebody who has the Mikey level standards, who went and watched it and said, I like this, I didn't like this, and also it's not woke, so I don't know what the big deal is.
Absolutely. And I just want to thank everybody for being here. Cameron can't stay much longer, but I did just want to mention, Professor M says that Barbie is 330 million. Really? Is that true? Is she?
Yeah, I'll check it out. I mean, I have no doubt it's 330 million. Like I said, the current, what I saw, the morning figure was 330 worldwide, and then 155 this morning. I'm sure it's going to hit 160 or more. Warner Brothers is actually very conservative about doing projections. It's smart that way. It's never disappointing. If it projects 145, if they get to 150, it's a win. If they get to 155, it's a big win. If they get to 160, it's a huge win. They're very smart about that, and I think it's going to do better than people expect. Right? And I wanted to get Retro Nerds. I know, yikes, I liked it. So Retro. She also says in the comments she respects people that have a different opinion on that, but she went and saw it, and she wasn't expecting to like it. She wasn't expecting to like it. And if you go in with this thing, it's the same thing with Miss Marvel. You don't watch that show, you're not gonna know what it is. Oh, I heard it's not made for me. It's a brown Pakistani Muslim woke girl. First of all, she's not woke. It's actually the most conservative, family-friendly thing, where because it's a traditional Pakistani family, it's like we don't even date. And that's the joke of the thing. How do you be a superhero when you're in a Pakistani family that doesn't like you wearing spandex outfits because it's too revealing? That's the joke of the show, right? And it's a commentary on maybe we are too liberal as a society. Maybe we have to go back to a little bit of innocence that this Pakistani family represents and Ms. Marvel represents. But people didn't watch it because people told them it's woke. It's the same thing happening now, and it's tragic.
Yes. And I'm sorry about the echo because I was clicking on some things improperly. I think we have another super chat here. Let me just make sure I get all of them. So
all right, let's get to Vanda Cinema because I want to respond to their comment.
Yes.
I want to respond to their comment.
Here
right?
we go. Said, hi, Vanda Cinema for $4.99 super chat. You said Barbie helping Ken get there. Men don't want women getting us there. Generally, men get themselves there. That's putting women up and men down. I have no idea if that's true or not. What I do know is that a lot of people were criticized. Everyone was criticized. So Vanda Cinema, everyone was criticized.
Everyone is criticized.
There was no one who was outside of the critical circle.
And I want to say something because I actually had a comment. I want to share with you. So I posted on my Patreon. So an example of people misunderstanding things. So I went to see a playwright. I went to meet a playwright a few days ago whose play I loved, and I was thinking once the strikes are over, let's get together, maybe adapt or play into a movie. So we had a lovely lunch. But the moment, and she's a nice liberal Jewish woman from New York who's visiting LA, and the moment she found out I was Muslim, and she is an atheist, whatever. The moment she found out I was Muslim, it derailed her. And so the next hour became her lecturing me on how religion is bad and Islam in particular is bad. She knew nothing about it. She literally thought we worship Muhammad, peace be upon him. We don't, but that's her level of knowledge. She didn't understand anything. She said, well, the Quran has all this misogyny. The Quran does not have. There are certainly Islamic texts that are not the Quran where men have put misogyny into them. It's not in the Quran. In fact, and I want to use that to reference this because the Quran says over and over again, you proceed from one another. To men and women, it says, men come from women and women come from men. It's a verse. You proceed from one another. It's repeated whenever the Quran talks about men. Remember, you proceed from one another. You are not disconnected from each other. And I want to suggest to you that yes, men do want to do things on our own, but that's not actual reality. We need other men, other human beings to guide us. That's why we need father figures and mentors, because being a man is hard in society. We've learned that in the last 2 generations. And that's why people are turning to public, to the Red Pill, to Rollo Tomasi, to other pickup artists to learn from somebody how to be a man, right? And the reality is the men do care what women think. We do care, right? We do care. To lie about that, and that's the point of the movie. It's a lie to pretend. Even all these men going their own way, guys, that I know, they're going from a place of sadness that they didn't know how to connect with men, and they're tired of doing it, and they just want to be out of it. But it's all defined. Again, it's not men going, it's all about men going their own way from women. They're not going their own way to the prairie. They just don't know how to deal with women, and they don't want to anymore, right? And so I would respectfully disagree with this. I think we do learn. You do learn from your father and from your mother how to be a man. You need to learn both. And I think you do learn from your romantic partner something about human relationships. And if you just think you're doing it on your own, the Quran also says, man, it's interesting. It uses this phrase, man, universally man, but I think it's also meaning men. Man fancies himself independent. It's a very interesting phrase. It's an illusion. We fancy ourselves independent. We are not independent. We're not independent of God. We're not independent of nature. We're not independent of our families. And we're not independent of the other sex. It is not real, right? Unless you're living in an island by yourself in which there's only emptiness, right? Tom Hanks lonely sitting by himself on an island as a castaway. So I strongly have a different perspective on this. Men have something. Women can teach us something. I say that as a conservative man, as a religious man who has probably very traditional ideas of male-female dynamics in a relationship. I like to be the leader in a relationship. I like to be decisive. I like to be masculine. But I learn from women. Otherwise, there's no point in the relationship. There is none. And the last thing I say about religion, in Islam, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, it's my religion. I don't have to share my religion, but I want to give an example from history. In Islam, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he would get revelations of the Quran when he was in bed with his wife. After they had intercourse, the Quran would come to him, and he would say that to her. Without the interaction of the feminine, inspiration couldn't come, right? Every artist, male artist, knows that. Picasso will tell you that. about how women are his muses. I mean, come on. We learn as men. The Picasso was a macho dude, seducing women left and right, but women were his muses. So that is my strong opinion on that.
Interesting. Ion is here in the chat and says he thinks that the movie can be interpreted in several ways. So are we stepping away, Kamran, from the notion of categorizing films? Like we said, some of the commentators here were talking about it being like Shakespeare, and of course, is the tragedy, the comedy, for those of us who at least have studied it, let's say, as well as the satire, whatever way you want to describe it. This one is straight out of a Shakespearean book. In fact, I'm kind of marveled at what I've seen, and I think it's maybe one of the most perfect examples in modern screenplay of that. Are we going to see more of this, Kamran? I know you said that there might be another film, but we really don't see this very often. We don't, because it's difficult to write this. It's not easy to do this, and it's certainly not easy to do it in a musical point of view and then add imagery and on top of all of this. What do you think, Kamran?
Well, I mean, look, this is a work of art. It's a work of genius. And it speaks for itself that the audience is getting it. The audience is getting it. The audience is getting it, right? And unless you think the vast majority of human beings are brainwashed idiots, right, then you can have that perspective, but that's just further isolating. If the audience is getting it, maybe there's something to listen to. Why is the audience getting it, right? Because they're reacting to the brilliant craftsmanship. They are not intellectuals, most of them. They're not film theorists. They're just reacting as they got the message. They don't know why they're feeling good. They're just not deconstructing America Ferrer's brilliantly written monologue at the end where she talks about all the things that women are required to do, and maybe I just want to be a mom, right? Brilliantly crafted, well-written dialogue with Greta Gerwig and her husband Noah Baumbach wrote that, right? But they're not analyzing it. They are feeling it. They're feeling it going, that's not, yeah, my mom has had to work her entire life, 2 jobs at times. As a kid, I never saw her. We were latchkey kids because she doesn't survive as immigrants. She was working until midnight. She'd leave dinner at night at home, and I would see her on the weekends, right? Maybe. She didn't want that life. It's what modern corporate America to a struggling immigrant gave her, and she had to do it to feed her children, just like my father did, right? They didn't want this version of life. They didn't come here to America for it, but they did it for us. Right? They sacrificed being there because they had to, because they needed to put food on the table, right? It's not a choice. And she wanted to be a mom and a grandma primarily, right? So it's the audience to reflect what they're saying. This is, why does Shakespeare work? People don't understand Shakespeare's language. They still don't understand it. I'm sure they didn't understand it. It was highfalutin language in the Elizabethan era, but they're getting the emotion of it. They're getting the emotion of it. They're understanding Shakespeare is saying something about life and about fathers and sons in Hamlets, and about mothers and sons, and about being afraid of your destiny, about being a coward, and about doing the right thing. They're getting this, even though they barely understand the language. That's why this movie is Shakespearean. You hit it exactly. It is Shakespearean. That's why it is hitting people. And Shakespeare, you have people doing books of commentaries to try to understand it. Right? And that's what this movie is going to be. It's going to be taught in film schools years from now because it requires this level of commentary.
Kamran, you have the Kamran method of writing, and certainly I absolutely want to take a course with you or something so I can write something as clever as this screenplay, which really did blow me away. I wasn't expecting this level of depth. And Science Lady for a £2 super chat says, I don't know what woke means. Nobody does. A lot of people have different definitions of them. And Dan V900 for $9.99 says people can't define it. Many are being disingenuous about Barbie. I could argue T2 is a woke film with a strong woman, Black man, Latino. Eddie Furlong is Latino, and Austrians saving the world. A lot can be said. Certainly, a lot can be said.
All of it. And guess what? The woke did this to us for the last 10 years. They deconstructed everything. Everything sucked. Austin Powers sucked. Terminator's toxic masculinity. Remember, they told us there have been no female heroines until Brie Larson shows up. I mean, they deconstructed everything. None of it was good enough. Wonder Woman in the 70s wasn't good enough. The Bionic Woman wasn't good enough. Emma Peel in the 60s wasn't good enough to be a female leader. Casablanca isn't good enough for male-female dynamics. They deconstructed that, right? There was an effort. One of the people that was recently fired from one of these DI positions, my understanding is she was pushing to have them edit Casablanca on the next release of DVD because it's not politically correct. Come on. We just went through this crap. We went through this crap, and now we're getting the pull out. And because everyone is still stuck thinking we're there, you have this genius Shakespearean play that is forcing us out of these boxes we've trapped ourselves in. And the great thing is, you don't have to watch this movie, and you can grumble about it, but looks like you're in the minority. People said to me, Cameron, your opinion is in the minority of the YouTubers. Yes, it is in the minority.
We don't know that for sure. I'm sorry, but
well, but that's what people say.
Out there who can go ahead and definitively and analytically tell us that you are either in the minority or majority. So no one really can say that and prove it. So
but that's what they claim. Certainly of the minority of the ones they follow. Certainly you have a different opinion. You're a YouTuber. You're probably.
I have a different opinion from everybody. Absolutely nobody shares my opinion. So I go in knowing that already. I don't have a problem, with the differences, but I hear what you're saying.
But regardless, let's go for the fact. Let's say arguably you and I are in the minority here. We certainly see people in the comments, people respect like Paulie that don't agree with us, right? Others in the comments that may or may not have seen the movie that are disagreeing with us, okay? Let's say we are the minority of the community of fans that are talking about it. Let's say that, right? On YouTube and elsewhere. And
okay.
Guess what? We're not the minority of society, because society has backed this film. So who's in the minority now?
Well,
society has backed this film by their purchases, by their enthusiasm, by their dressing up like the characters, by their events, by conservative women tweeting that this movie was important to me. Society is backing this up. So who's in the minority here? It's okay to be in the minority, but if you use that as a sword against an opinion that you haven't heard in this echo chamber on YouTube, well, I won't urge you to get out and see maybe where society is going, which is my final comment on where I said, which is my fear for the commentators on YouTube that are unlike Paulie and a few others that are disingenuous, that are just reading scripts. You will lose your community. You will lose your fans. You're already losing some conservative fans that are saying, you're telling me that movie was good. Women are telling me, conservatives are telling me they're good. Maybe I wasn't being given the proper information by my favorite YouTuber. You're losing them. That was your mistake because you're not authentic about what you believe. So guess what? Society will always be authentic. And it's moving on.
Certainly, I want to thank Dan V900 for another 199 super chat. Thank you. Says that Terminator 2's villain is a cop and they don't like cops, and that would be something that would be mentioned. I also want to thank Bondage Brittany. Hi, Bondage Brittany, who always gives responses very much like Darth Plato that are very, very descriptive. And Bondage Brittany says this is a definition of it. And thank you, Bondage Brittany, for throwing that in. And, this probably is, may pertain to a lot of that definition, right? And that's what I do love about many of you who are just really enriching this discussion so much. Thank you, Bondage Brittany, for putting that in for us. And hey,
so I want to respond to someone here, this gentleman Manolo Ribeiro, because he's making a personal comment here, and I want to respond to it. Okay. And okay, well, let me respond to Latino. I responded in the direct. So I want to respond to Latino slang. You want to read it, and I'll respond. Then I have to go in a few minutes, but I want to respond to Manolo Ribeiro because he made a personal comment about it, and I want to respond. So go on.
Yeah, and the way I interpreted so many of the criticisms, because Paulie, everybody was criticized in this film. There was no one who got out without a criticism. He says America's character was not alone. She was married, and that dude was made, and he was not made to be a tool. The satire is that they pretended as if he was not important enough to take him with them, and oftentimes we see women saying things that they feel like they know what this person is going to think. You can't do that. Ask him if he wants to come along. This is your spouse. Reach out to your partner and have that conversation, but don't go ahead and think that you know someone so well that you can just leave them alone or ignore them. That's a big problem in society.
Because America is stuck in the same mindset that Barbie was in.
Correct.
Right?
So
Barbie has to learn
in
Barbie
satire is about
this thing. And the other thing is, I don't think he was a freaking tool. He actually represents a lot of guys I know who he's in an interracial marriage. He's a white guy married to a Latina and he's going out of his way to learn languages, and he's so excited that he's figuring out the dialogue where he's trying to, learning from, his app how to speak Spanish is funny.
Right.
Because I met that guy.
This was not meant to be taken literally. This was not meant to be taken literally.
But it's a real guy. It's a real guy trying hard to connect with his wife. It's a movie about connection.
The deeper meaning was that she didn't have enough respect for her husband to go and ask him to come with her, or at least ask him what he wants to do. That was the deeper meaning to me, Paulie. That's how I interpreted it.
So now, if you can bring up, and this will be the final thing we're going to talk about, because I believe it's Mr. Manolo Rivera, the movie was not satire, message patriarchy from start to finish. You are purposely being obtuse. Okay, if you can bring up that comment.
I'm looking for it.
It's near the bottom. I responded to it.
And I have to also do the super chat first. Just Nova for 11 again. Okay. Wow, Just Nova, thank you for another $4.99 super chat. Says it talks about this woke argument. It's being established characters to push narratives of politics. Barbie and GB 2016 used satire. Barbie just criticized everyone. There's a lot of satire. I had no idea that there's so much satire.
I don't recall there being social discussions like this in Barbie 2016. I don't recall that. And I don't, again, criticizing. It's satire. We're all silly and we deserve to be criticized. All of us are. If you don't think you deserve to be criticized, you need to be criticized if you think you're above it, right? That's all right. So thank you for your comments, but I do need to get to Manolo Rivera. I'd like to get there.
Yes. Which one?
You can go on some of these super chats after I leave, because I do have to get ready to go.
Where is it?
It's
intersectional feminism?
Just before that, I'll respond to that as well.
Okay.
Because they talk about me being obtuse, right? The movie is not satire, message patriarchy from start to finish. You're purposely being obtuse. I don't know.
No.
First of all, I'm not being obtuse. No. I'm giving you what I think is a sophisticated analysis, breaking down scene by scene, line by line, and explaining to you what I'm seeing in these lines. And so a woman saying, I just want to be a mother is okay. How is that obtuse? It seems like people are being obtuse who are not willing to look at every example that I give. The example of Ken coming to, being in Barbie's shadow, rebelling against her shadow, and at least learning the lesson that he has to be his own man, right? That's not being obtuse. It's being obtuse to not see that journey. It's being obtuse to not see that journey. It is when I point out the example of the fact that Ken's toys outsell Barbies when they're macho Ken, that, to not see that is a commentary that boys don't have necessarily male figures right now to play with. The last 10 years of deconstructing Luke Skywalker and all that stuff took that away from boys' toys, right? And now when they get a macho, exaggerated Ken, they're buying it more than Barbie. To not see that is to be obtuse. To not see that is to be obtuse. To see that in front and say, that's not what they're saying. That is exactly what they're saying. I mean, so when someone accuses you of being obtuse, the simple fact is I just listed for you examples. I'm seeing all these comments in the chat. Not one of them, to my knowledge, have I seen actually saying, Kamran, you misunderstood that scene. Because you can't say it. Because the people who are saying this, in my opinion, are being obtuse. You're being obtuse because you don't have a response to this, and you don't want me to be right on this. You don't want me to be right, because that means everyone you identify with is wrong. And that's unfortunate that it's become tribal. It's become tribal, but it's not tribal in my mind. I'm a conservative Muslim man. And I'm not seeing this tribally. The people who are critiquing this largely, not everyone, largely are seeing it tribally, especially because they haven't seen it. 99% of them haven't seen it. So it's purely tribal. My tribal newspaper told me this is the narrative I got to go with. So obtuse and tribality, I'm holding the mirror right back to you.
So our last super chat is just the Danvo 900 for $9.99. And he's still talking about Terminator. Thank you, Danvo, for bringing in other examples. Starship Troopers, definitely.
Well, Starship Troopers, is that a movie that's promoting fascism? Is that, if you watch it obtusely, you think this is a movie promoting, military-industrial complex, war, and fascism? Is that what it's actually doing? Or is it mocking this? Is Dr. Strangelove promoting nuclear war?
No, it's not.
People will say
satire
that's not what it's doing.
Why I learned to love the bomb.
That's the title.
That's what it means. It's supposed to be. You're
and
not
what's the
supposed to
final
actually
moment?
love
The
it.
dude, a cowboy hat going down with a bomb and nuking everybody, and the whole world ends, right? It's.
But I guess if people want to believe that's the literal meaning that you're just supposed to love it, I guess they can believe whatever they want to. However, it doesn't remove any of the fantastic accomplishment from this film. As Paulie had said, time will tell how it's going to perform. You and I both know this. Kamran, thank you so much for joining me today in the scintillating conversation Yes, yes.
I'm glad we have to do this because there is a narrative that's taking hold, and I'm glad we did this because maybe at least this video deserves 10,000, 100,000 views, and God willing, we'll get there. Thank you, my brother. You're always on fire. Your fuego as always. I'm trying to catch
Yes,
up.
RoboCop is another famous satire.
It's a great satire. I mean, one of the funniest scenes in RoboCop is that moment with the early where there's, you know, they have the prototype and doesn't stop killing the poor executive, right? You know, it's a kind. He's like, oh, I'm very disappointed after he's blown this executive to bits, right? All right, I'm very disappointed in you. So it's a commentary on military-industrial complex, on immoral trade behavior, disconnected corporations, all that. All right, I gotta go.
Here is Kamran's Patreon. Please go ahead, like and subscribe to Kamran's Patreon. Kamran, I'm closing this stream out. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. I want to thank Tom Jr. Jackson. You guys are the best. Everybody, your views, whether they're the same as ours or different, thank you for being here and for, you know, just seeing everybody. Everybody, thank you for being here. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Oh man. V for $20 super chat says about the vernacular of woke, and thank you, V, for doing that. And we are going to have to end it here because I have to go, and so does Kamran. V, thank you, and thank you everybody for being so generous, guys. And remember, no matter where you are, first of all, go see the Barbie movie. It's a fun movie. And guys,
and then come back and give real comments. And if you don't like it, give examples of why you don't like it, and then we can respond and say, maybe here's another way to look at that scene. And then we'll have
absolutely. And maybe we'll do a second one of these. I don't know, Kamran. But guys, remember, no matter where you are in the galaxy, always remember to please be kind. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a pleasant day.
God bless.